The alarm screamed through the Velthrani research station like nothing Commander Velis had ever heard before. Her delicate antenna trembled as the sound pierced through her office walls. She rushed to the command center, her 6 legs moving as fast as they could carry her fragile body. "Report," she commanded, her voice translator making her words understandable to the mixed species crew. "Commander, we have a critical emergency," her second officer said, his methane-filled breathing mask fogging up with stress. "The colony. Transport Gentle Dawn has suffered complete engine failure. They're trapped in a decaying orbit around the gas giant." Velis felt her exoskeleton go cold. The Gentle Dawn carried 12,000 Velthrani civilians, families, children, scientists heading to the new colony world. Now they were all going to die. "How long do they have?" she asked, though she feared the answer. 47 hours, maybe less. "The ship's hull is already showing stress fractures. The gravity well is pulling them in." Velis moved to the main display screen. She could see the transport ship on the scanner, a small dot spiraling slowly toward the massive planet below. The gas giant was beautiful, with swirling storms of purple and gold. It was also deadly. The pressure down there would crush their ship like an egg. "Send out the emergency beacon," Velis ordered. "All frequencies. Someone has to help them." The communications officer worked quickly. Within minutes, the distress call was broadcasting across the sector. It was a simple message, translated into every known language. "Critical emergency. 12,000 civilians in danger. Engine failure. Need immediate rescue, please help." Velis waited. She watched the screen and hoped. The first response came from the Korthian Empire. They were a powerful species with advanced technology, but their message made Velis's hope sink. "We have received your distress call. Our engineers have analyzed the situation. The rescue is impossible. The time frame is too short and the gravitational forces are too strong. We cannot risk our ships and crew. We are sorry. We will remember your people." More responses came in. The Zephyri Federation said the same thing. So did the Titanus Coalition. Every species had the same answer. The math didn't work. The physics were impossible. Sending rescue ships would only mean more deaths. Velis felt her body shaking. She ordered her crew to keep trying, to call anyone who might help. But deep down, she knew the truth. Her people were going to die, and there was nothing she could do about it. The Velthrani on the Gentle Dawn knew it too. They began sending final messages home. Parents recorded goodbye messages for their children. Scientists sent their final research notes. Everyone prepared for the end. Velis stood in the command center watching the countdown timer. 44 hours left. She had failed them. Then something strange happened. "Commander," the communications officer said, his voice confused. "We're receiving a response from. I'm not sure how to translate this. The system designation is Deathworld 326C. "Deathworld?" Velis repeated. She had heard that term before. The Galactic Council used it to mark planets that were too dangerous for civilized life. Places where the environment itself was hostile. Why would anyone be living on a death world? "I don't know, Commander, but they're responding to our distress call." "Play it." The message came through. The voice was strange, not like any species Velis knew. It sounded confident, almost casual. "Velthrani Research Station, this is Earth Vessel Indomitable. We received your distress signal. Hang tight. We're coming to get your people out. Estimate arrival in 19 hours. Keep that beacon active. Indomitable out." The command center went silent. Everyone stared at the speakers. "Did they say they're coming?" the second officer asked. "That's what it sounded like," Velis said slowly. She pulled up information about Deathworld 326C. The file was marked with red warning symbols. "Earth," she read aloud. "Quarantine status, active. Reason, extreme environmental danger. Native species, highly aggressive, high pain tolerance, pack hunters. Caution, do not approach without council authorization." "Commander, should we? Should we tell them not to come?" someone asked. Velis thought about it. These humans, whatever they were, lived on a quarantine world. They were probably dangerous, primitive. They didn't understand what they were getting into. The rescue was impossible. Every advanced species in the sector had said so, but they were the only ones who had offered to try. No, Velis said firmly. We will not turn away help. Inform the Gentle Dawn that rescue is coming, and start monitoring for the human ship. Over the next 18 hours, Velis learned everything she could about Earth and humans. The information was limited because the planet was under quarantine. But what she found was terrifying. Earth was a nightmare world. The gravity was 3 times stronger than the Velthrani homeworld. The atmosphere contained highly reactive oxygen. The temperature swung wildly between freezing and boiling. The surface was covered with dangerous predators, toxic plants, and natural disasters. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, tsunamis. And humans had evolved there. They had survived there. They had built cities and technology while their planet actively tried to kill them. These humans, her science officer said, reading the reports, they're apex predators from a hell world. Commander, are we sure about this? We don't have a choice, Velis said. They're our only hope. 19 hours after the first message, the human ship arrived. Velis watched on the long-range scanners as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The way it moved made her antenna curl in fear. The ship came out of FTL at speeds that should have torn it apart. It didn't slow down gradually like civilized ships did. It just stopped. The forces involved should have killed everyone on board. That's not possible, the navigation officer whispered. The human ship moved toward the research station. It was strange-looking, not like the smooth, elegant ships of the Galactic Cooperation Zone. This ship looked rough, blocky, like someone had taken an industrial mining vessel and bolted weapons and engines onto it wherever they fit. Velthrani Research Station, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Indomitable. We're here to help. Can you patch us through to the Gentle Dawn? We need to coordinate the rescue. Velis opened the communication channel herself. Captain Chen, this is Commander Velis. We are grateful you came, but I must warn you. Our best engineers say the rescue is impossible. The time frame is too short. The gravitational forces are too strong. There was a pause. Then the human captain spoke again. Her voice sounded amused. Commander, impossible just means nobody's done it yet. We're going to get your people out, all of them. Now let's talk to that transport ship and figure out how we're going to do this. Velis felt something she hadn't felt since the crisis began. It wasn't quite hope. It was something stranger. These humans from their death world didn't seem to understand the concept of impossible. They talked about the rescue like it was a difficult job, not a suicide mission. Maybe that was what living on a death world did to a species. Maybe it made them crazy enough to try anything. Velis opened the channel to the Gentle Dawn and introduced the humans. She didn't know if this would save her people or just give them false hope before the end. But at least they wouldn't die alone. At least someone had tried. She watched the human ship move into position near the dying transport. The countdown timer showed 41 hours left. Either they would witness a miracle, or they would watch the Death World species fail like everyone else. Velis realized she was hoping for the miracle. Captain Sarah Chen looked at the Velthrani transport ship on her display screen and felt her stomach tighten. It was bad, really bad. The ship was breaking apart in slow motion, held together by hope and not much else. 41 hours until it fell into the gas giant below. 12,000 people on board who were counting on her crew. Just another day at the office, she thought. Marcus, what do you think? She asked her chief engineer. Lieutenant Marcus Webb whistled low as he studied the scans. Well, Captain, it's a mess. Their engines are completely dead. Life support is running on backup power that won't last more than 30 hours. The hull has 17 major fractures and probably hundreds of small ones we can't see yet. And they're sinking into a gravity well that's pulling at them harder every minute. But can we save them? Marcus grinned. I didn't say we couldn't, I just said it was a mess. Give me a few hours to work out the details, Sarah smiled. That was why she loved her crew. They were all crazy enough to think like her. She opened the communication channel to the Velthrani station. Commander Velis, this is Captain Chen. We're going to send EVA teams over to the transport to stabilize it. Then we'll tow it out of the gravity well. There was a long silence. When Commander Velis spoke again, her voice sounded strange through the translator. Shocked, maybe. Captain Chen, did you say EVA teams? Extravehicular activity? In space? Yes, that's the plan. Why? Another pause.
Captain, our species cannot survive EVA operations.
The radiation exposure, the temperature extremes, the pressure differences. It would kill us in seconds. Our bodies are too fragile. That's why we use automated systems and drones. Sarah blinked. She had forgotten that not all species were built like humans. Oh, well, humans can handle EVA just fine. We do it all the time. It's safe as long as you follow the protocols. Safe. Commander Velis sounded like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Captain, our sensors show that space near the gas giant has radiation levels that would be lethal to most species. How lethal are we talking? The exposure would cause death within hours. Okay, that's not too bad. Our suits can handle that, and our medics can treat radiation exposure. We'll be careful. You'll be careful. Velis repeated the words like they didn't make sense. Sarah frowned. Maybe she wasn't explaining this right. These aliens seemed really worried about things that were just normal risks to humans. Commander, I promise we know what we're doing. My crew has done hundreds of rescue operations. We've pulled people out of collapsed buildings, sinking ships, and burning zones. This is just like that, but in space. She closed the channel and turned to her crew. All right, people, suit up. We're going over there. The Indomitable had a crew of 45 humans. Sarah was taking 20 of them on the EVA operation. The rest would stay on the ship to run the systems and prepare for the tow operation. In the suit-up room, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. They put on their EVA suits, checked each other's seals, and loaded their equipment. The suits were heavy and bulky, designed to protect humans from the vacuum of space. But compared to the armored suits that most alien species needed, they were almost nothing. Just some metal, plastic, and a radiation shield. Hey, Captain, called out Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the chief medical officer. The aliens are asking if they can observe our preparations. Should I set up a video feed? Sure, why not? Maybe it'll make them feel better to see we know what we're doing. The video feed activated. Sarah didn't think much about it. She was too busy checking her crew and planning the operation. But up on the Velthrani research station, Commander Velis and her entire staff were watching in horror. They saw humans putting on what looked like thin, minimal suits. They saw humans joking and laughing while they prepared for what the Velthrani considered certain death. They saw humans eating food while they suited up. Food that the Velthrani's database marked as toxic to most species. One human was drinking something called coffee that was apparently mildly poisonous and addictive. They're insane, someone whispered on the station. No, Velis said slowly. They're just from a death world. This is normal for them. On the Indomitable, Marcus Webb finished his third cup of coffee and burped. All right, that hits the spot. Ready to go crack open a spaceship? You make it sound so violent, said Ensign Lisa Park, checking her cutting torch. Because it is violent. We're going to blow a hole in their hull, climb inside, and start moving stuff around. It's basically construction work, but in space, and more explosive. Sarah shook her head, but she was smiling. Can we please not blow up the ship we're trying to save? I make no promises, Captain. The airlock cycled open. The EVA team pushed off from the Indomitable and floated toward the Velthrani transport. Sarah felt the familiar rush of excitement she always got during spacewalks. The stars above, the ship below. Nothing but her suit between her and the void. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also beautiful. Approaching the hull, she reported. Marcus, where do you want to make entry? See that section near the engine room? That's where the main damage is. We need to get in there and stabilize the reactor before it goes critical. Use the emergency airlock on Deck 7. But when they reached the airlock, they found it was jammed. The ship's damage had warped the frame. Well, that's inconvenient, Marcus said. Guess we do this the fun way. Lisa, bring up the torch. Wait, Commander Velis's voice came over the radio. What are you doing? The airlock is stuck, so we're going to cut through the hull, Sarah explained. Cut through? Captain, that will cause explosive decompression. Anyone near that section will be killed. That's why we're cutting into a section that shows empty on the scans. Nobody's there, and we'll patch it up afterward. You're going to use controlled explosives on a ship that's already falling apart? Sarah could hear the panic in the alien commander's voice. Commander, I know this sounds crazy to you, but we really do know what we're doing. We're going to be very careful. They cut through the hull. The metal peeled away like opening a can. Sarah and her team climbed inside, pulling themselves through the zero gravity. The interior of the ship was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance they could hear metal groaning under stress. "All right, teams," Sarah ordered. "Marcus, take engineering and stabilize that reactor. Yuki, take medical and find any injured civilians. Everyone else with me. We're going to reinforce the hull fractures." They split up and got to work. Sarah's team moved through the ship, finding the cracks and weak points. They used emergency foam to seal the gaps. It was industrial sealant, the kind used in construction. It worked perfectly for humans. The Velthrani database probably listed it as toxic. Sarah made a mental note to wash it off before touching any aliens. In the engine room, Marcus and his team found the reactor in bad shape. It was overheating and the cooling systems were offline. "Okay, this is going to be fun," Marcus said. "We need to manually vent the coolant and reset the system." "Fun?" one of his engineers asked. "We're going to be swimming in radiation." "Yeah, but only for about 15 minutes. We've had worse. Remember that solar flare on Titan Station?" "Marcus, 3 people went to the hospital after that, and they all recovered fine. We'll be okay. Come on, let's go." They entered the reactor room. The radiation levels immediately spiked on their suit sensors. Alarms started beeping. Up on the research station, every Velthrani watching the video feed gasped in horror. The humans were walking into what they considered a death trap, but Marcus just hummed to himself as he worked. He opened access panels, rerouted systems, and manually operated controls that were supposed to be handled by automated systems. His team worked with him, moving quickly and efficiently. 14 minutes later, they walked back out. "The reactor was stable, see?" Marcus said cheerfully. "No problem. We'll need some anti-radiation medication when we get back, but we're fine." On the research station, Commander Velis stared at the screen. These humans had just absorbed enough radiation to kill a Velthrani 100 times over, and they were calling it fine. Then something went wrong. One of the human engineers, a young man named David Torres, was working on sealing a hull fracture when his suit's oxygen line caught on a piece of debris. It tore open. Sarah heard the alarm over the radio. "Torres, report." "Captain, I've got a suit breach. Losing air. Get to the ship now." "I'm trying, but I'm tangled up in—" "Wait, I think I can—" There was a sound of ripping fabric. "Okay, I'm free. Heading back." Torres pulled himself through the ship toward the airlock. His suit was leaking air. He was breathing vacuum. For 40 seconds, he was exposed to hard space. He made it to the airlock. The medical team got him inside and repressurized. Yuki was working on him within a minute. "Is he alive?" Sarah asked, her voice tight. "Yeah," Yuki said, sounding surprised. "Yeah, he's breathing. Conscious even. He's got some lung damage from the vacuum exposure, but nothing critical. He's going to be okay." Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Torres, you scared me." "Sorry, Captain." Torres's weak voice came over the radio. "My bad. Hey, at least now I can say I've done a spacewalk without a suit. That's gotta count for something." On the research station, the Velthrani couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A human had been exposed to hard vacuum. He had survived. And now he was making jokes about it. Commander Velis R. The rescue operation had been going for 6 hours, and Commander Velis still couldn't believe what she was watching. The humans swarmed through the damaged transport ship like they owned the place. They moved through corridors that registered as lethal on Velthrani sensors. They worked in sections where the temperature was below freezing or hot enough to cook most species. They didn't seem to care. "Commander," her science officer said, pointing at one of the video feeds. "Look at this human. She's been working in the reactor section for 3 hours. The radiation exposure should have incapacitated her by now." Velis watched the human engineer climb through a crawl space, pulling cables behind her. The radiation badge on her suit was bright red, critical levels, but the engineer just kept working, singing something called a rock song over the open channel. "Their bodies must process radiation differently than ours," Velis said. "Or maybe they just heal faster. I don't know anymore. These humans are making me question everything we know about biology." The biggest challenge came when the humans started evacuating the Velthrani civilians. There were 12,000 people on the transport, and many of them were injured or in shock. The humans wanted to help, but there was a problem. A big problem. Velthrani were fragile. Their exoskeletons were thin, designed for low gravity and gentle environments. A human handshake could crack a Velthrani's arm. A friendly pat on the back could break ribs. The first incident happened when a human rescue worker tried to help a Velthrani child who had fallen. The human reached out instinctively, grabbed the child to steady them, and accidentally fractured the child's shell in 3 places. The human was horrified. "Oh God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, Is she okay?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka rushed over with her medical team. She carefully examined the Velthrani child, who was crying in pain and fear. Yuki's hands moved with incredible gentleness, barely touching the injured areas. "Captain Chen, we have a problem," Yuki reported over the radio. "We're too strong for them. We're going to hurt people if we're not extremely careful." Sarah's voice came back immediately. "All rescue personnel, new protocol. Treat every Velthrani like they're made of glass. And I mean expensive glass. Museum quality. Use both hands, minimal pressure, slow movements. If you're not sure you can move someone safely, call medical. Yuki, I need you to give everyone a quick lesson on Velthrani anatomy." For the next 20 minutes, Yuki taught the rescue crews how to handle Velthrani without breaking them. She showed them where the exoskeleton was strongest, how to distribute pressure, how to lift without crushing. The humans listened carefully and practiced with small objects until they got the feel for it. Then they went back to work, this time with incredible care. Velis watched as humans who had been casually tossing around heavy equipment now moved like they were handling soap bubbles. A big, muscular human man carried a Velthrani elder to safety, his face tight with concentration, as he held the alien with the same care you'd give to a newborn baby. "They're adapting," Velis's second officer observed. "In real time, that should be impossible." "Everything they do should be impossible," Velis replied. "I'm starting to think impossible is their specialty." Then the reactor situation got worse. Marcus Webb had stabilized the reactor, but it was only a temporary fix. The cooling system was damaged beyond repair. Without proper cooling, the reactor would eventually overheat and explode, or melt down, or both. Either way, everyone would die. "Captain, we've got a problem," Marcus reported. "The reactor is going to go critical in about 18 hours, maybe less. We need to shut it down completely and vent the core." "Can you do it?" Sarah asked. "Oh sure, it's easy. Open the venting ports, drain the fuel rods, flush the system. The problem is someone has to do it manually because the controls are fried, and that someone is going to take a radiation bath that makes our earlier exposure look like a day at the beach." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "How bad, Marcus?" "Bad enough that I wouldn't recommend it, but not bad enough that it'll kill us if we're fast. We get in, vent the reactor, get out. 20 minutes, maybe 30. We'll be sick for a few days, but we'll survive." "You're sure?" "Captain, I've read my own species' history. Human nuclear. Workers used to do stuff like this all the time back in the early days. Some of them got way worse doses and lived to retirement. We're tougher than we look." "All right, assemble your team. But Marcus, I want you to move fast. In and out." "You got it, boss." Marcus took 2 engineers with him into the reactor core. On the research station, the Velthrani watched in silent horror. The radiation readings were off the charts. The humans were walking into what the Velthrani considered certain death. But the humans just got to work. They opened panels, pulled levers, and manually operated systems. Marcus narrated the process over the radio, his voice calm and professional. "Okay, opening vent port 1, there we go. Port 2. Good, now I need to. Yep, got it. Fuel rod 1 is draining. How's everyone doing?" "Hot and glowy," one of his engineers replied. "But I'm okay." "Same here," said the other. "Though I think my radiation badge just gave up and died." "Yeah, mine too." "Okay, almost done. Just need to flush the cooling lines and we're good." 32 minutes after they entered, the team walked out. They had absorbed enough radiation to kill most species 10 times over. They would need serious medical treatment, but they had done it. The reactor was safe. Yuki met them at the medical bay. "Strip down, all of you. I need to get anti-radiation meds into you immediately." "Doc, you're going to give us a lecture, aren't you?" Marcus asked. "You're damn right I am. What you 3 just did was incredibly stupid and dangerous." "But necessary," Marcus pointed out. "That doesn't make it less stupid." Yuki prepared injections for all 3 of them. You're going to feel terrible for the next few days, nausea, fatigue, maybe some hair loss, but you'll live. See? Marcus said cheerfully. Totally worth it. We saved 12,000 people and all it cost me was a bad hair day. While the humans were dealing with the reactor, other teams were working on the ship's hull. The fractures were spreading. Every hour that passed, the gravity well pulled harder and the stress on the ship increased. They needed to reinforce the hull or it would break apart before they could tow it to safety. The problem was they didn't have proper repair materials. The Indomitable was a mining vessel, not a repair ship. So the humans improvised. They used industrial foam, the kind meant for sealing mining tunnels. They welded scrap metal over the cracks. They even used something called duct tape, which turned out to be some kind of universal human solution for everything. The Velthrani database listed it as primitive adhesive material. The humans called it the most important invention in history. If duct tape can't fix it, nothing can, one human said while wrapping it around a cracked support beam. Commander Velis had stopped trying to understand human logic. She just watched and hoped it would work. Then came the biggest challenge yet. The humans needed to physically attach tow cables to the transport ship. That meant going outside, to the worst parts of the hull, where the damage was severe and the stress forces were strongest. It was dangerous even for humans. Sarah Chen led that team herself. She took 5 crew members and went out to the most damaged section of the hull. They had to drill anchor points into metal that was already cracking. One wrong move and the whole section could collapse, taking them with it. Easy does it, Sarah said as they worked. Nice and slow. Remember, we're dealing with damaged material here. They drilled the first anchor point. The metal held. Second point. Still good. Third, fourth, fifth. All successful. They were attaching the 6th point when the hull groaned. "Captain, we've got stress warnings," someone called over the radio. "I hear it," Sarah replied. "Everyone, back up slowly. Don't make any sudden movements." The metal groaned again. A crack appeared, spreading from where they had been drilling. The hull section was failing. "Go, go, go," Sarah ordered. The team pushed off from the hull, floating back toward the Indomitable. Behind them, a 50-meter section of the transport's hull collapsed inward with silent violence. Metal twisted and broke. If they had been there 5 seconds longer, they would have been crushed. "Everyone okay?" Sarah asked, doing a quick head count. "All present, Captain," her team confirmed. "Good. Let's try that again, different section." On the research station, Velis couldn't believe it. The humans had almost died and they were just going to try again, like it was nothing. Like they hadn't just escaped death by seconds. The second attempt was successful. The tow cables were attached. The Indomitable was ready to pull the transport ship out of the gravity well. But then Yuki made a discovery that changed everything. She had been treating injured Velthrani civilians all day, learning their physiology as she went. Now she was examining a patient who had been near the reactor before the humans shut it down. The Velthrani was showing signs of radiation poisoning. Yuki checked her scans and felt her stomach drop. "Captain, we have a problem. A big one." "What is it, Doc?" "The Velthrani process radiation differently than humans. What we consider survivable exposure is lethal too." The tow cables were attached. The Indomitable was in position. Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair and looked at the numbers on her screen. They weren't good. "Marcus, give me the odds," she said quietly. Her chief engineer rubbed his tired eyes. He had been awake for 24 hours straight, and the radiation exposure was starting to make him feel sick. But he still pulled up the calculations. The transport ship weighs 5 times what we do. The gravity well is pulling both ships down at increasing speed. Our engines are designed for asteroid mining, not towing. If we burn at maximum power, we might be able to pull the transport out. We might also burn out our engines and doom both ships. What's your gut feeling? Marcus looked at her. "My gut says we have to try. Those 12,000 people didn't come this far to die now." Sarah nodded. She opened the ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to begin tow operations. It's going to be rough. Very rough. I need everyone at their stations and ready for anything. Engineering, I'm going to ask things of our engines that they were never designed to do. Damage control, be ready to respond to anything that breaks. Medical, prepare for casualties. This is what we came here to do. Let's bring these people home. She switched to the external channel. Commander Velis, we're beginning the tow now. Keep your people calm. This might get a little bumpy. On the research station, Velis watched as the human ship began to move. The Indomitable pulled against the tow cables. The transport ship resisted, held by the planet's massive gravity. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the transport began to move. They're doing it, Velis's second officer whispered. They're actually doing it, but it wasn't that simple. The transport was moving, yes, but not fast enough. The gravity well was too strong. Even with the Indomitable's engines burning at full power, they were only slowing the descent. Not stopping it. Not reversing it. Captain, Marcus reported, we're not going to make it. The engines are giving everything they have, but it's not enough. We need more power. Sarah's mind raced. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. You just had to be willing to think outside the box. Or in this case, outside what was safe or sane or even remotely advisable. What if we redirect power from other systems? She asked, already doing it. Life support is at minimum. Weapons are offline. We're running everything we can into the engines. It's still not enough. Sarah stared at the screen, at the slowly falling transport ship, at the 12,000 lives depending on her. There was one option left. It was crazy, dangerous, possibly suicidal, exactly the kind of thing humans were famous for. The tow cables aren't going to work, she said. We need to push. Silence on the bridge. Captain, Marcus said carefully, did you just say push? The Indomitable was designed as a mining ship. Our bow is reinforced for ramming asteroids. What if we detach the tow cables and physically push the transport with our ship? Marcus paused. That's actually insane. The forces involved would damage both ships. We'd be gambling that our hull can take the stress, and we'd have to push them through the upper atmosphere of the gas giant to break free of the gravity well. The friction and heat would be intense, but would it work? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, it might work. It might also kill us all. Better odds than we have now. Do it. The crew moved into action. They detached the tow cables. The Indomitable maneuvered into position, its reinforced bow pointing at the transport ship's stern. On the research station, the Velthrani watched in confusion and growing horror as they realized what the humans were about to do. They can't be serious, someone said. They're going to ram the ship, another asked. Commander Velis just shook her head. They're humans. Of course they're serious. The Indomitable made contact. Metal screamed as the two ships came together. Sarah felt the impact through her entire body. Alarms started blaring. Then the engines kicked in, pushing both ships upward against the gravity well. It was working. Barely. The ships were climbing, but the strain was enormous. Hull stress at 70%, someone reported. Engine temperature critical, Marcus added. We're going to overheat. Keep pushing, Sarah ordered. We're not stopping now. They climbed higher. The gas giant's upper atmosphere began to lick at both ships. The friction generated heat. Lots of heat. The hull started to glow. Hull temperature rising fast, the damage control officer reported. We're going to start losing hull integrity. Engineering teams reinforce the critical sections, Sarah commanded. Whatever you have to do, keep this ship together. All over the Indomitable, human engineers rushed to weak points. They welded supports. They patched breaches. They manually held systems together when automated systems failed. In one section, Marcus himself was using his body to brace a support beam that was bending under the stress. Marcus, report, Sarah called. Little busy, Captain, he grunted. The metal beam was superheated, burning through his gloves. But he didn't let go. Just having a disagreement with this support column about which one of us is stronger. I'm winning so far. The ships pushed higher. The atmosphere grew thicker. The heat grew worse. The hull temperature was now beyond red hot. It was white hot. Metal that wasn't designed for this kind of abuse was starting to fail. On the transport ship, the Velthrani civilians were terrified. Their ship was shaking. The temperature was rising. They could hear metal groaning and popping. They didn't understand what was happening. They just knew they were going to die. Then they heard a voice over their communication system. It was Captain Chen. Velthrani civilians, this is Captain Chen of the human rescue ship. I know you're scared. I know this is rough. But I need you to hold on. We're pushing your ship out of the gravity well. We're going to get you out. All of you. I promise. Just hold on a little longer. Her voice was calm, confident, like this was just another day. Like pushing a ship through an atmosphere while both vessels burned around her was perfectly normal. And somehow that voice made the Velthrani believe. If this human could stay calm in the middle of hell itself, maybe they could survive. But then disaster struck. The main coupling on the transport ship, the section where the Indomitable was pushing, started to fail. The metal couldn't take the stress and heat. It began to crack. "Captain, the coupling is breaking," someone shouted. "If it fails, we'll lose contact with the transport. They'll fall back into the gravity well." Sarah made a decision in half a second. "All personnel, get to the bow section. We need to distribute the pressure. Everyone, your bodies are now structural supports. Press against the hull and hold it together." It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly what they were going to do. The crew ran to the bow. They pressed themselves against the groaning, superheated metal. 20 humans using their bodies to reinforce a breaking spaceship. The heat was intense even through their suits. The vibration rattled their bones. But they held, and the coupling held. The ships climbed higher. They were almost free of the gravity well. Just a little more. Just a little further. Then an explosion rocked the transport. One of the damaged sections finally gave out. The hull breached. Atmosphere vented into space. And worse, 3 humans who were working in that section were trapped. "We have personnel cut off in Section 12, someone reported. "They're alive but trapped behind a collapsed bulkhead." Sarah's jaw clenched. They were so close to saving everyone. She wasn't going to lose anyone now. "Yuki, take a team. Get them out. Captain, if I leave the medical bay, the radiation patients won't have a doctor. Then, teach someone else to do your job. Fast, but I need you to get our people out." Yuki grabbed the nearest crew member and gave him a 5-minute crash course in treating radiation poisoning. Then she ran. She reached Section 12 and found the bulkhead completely collapsed. Behind it, she could hear 3 voices calling for help. "Hang on," she shouted. "We're getting you out." She and her team started cutting through the debris, but there was so much of it. And the ship was still shaking, still burning, still threatening to fall apart completely. They needed more time they didn't have. In the medical bay, the Velthrani radiation patients were getting worse. The crew member Yuki had trained was doing his best, but he didn't have her knowledge or experience. 2 patients went into critical condition. On the bridge, Sarah watched as multiple systems started failing at once. The engines were overheating. The hull was buckling. They had crew members trapped. They had dying patients. Everything was falling apart, and they were still 50 kilometers from breaking free of the gravity well. Sarah looked at her crew. At Marcus, still holding that support beam even though his hands were burning. At Yuki, desperately cutting through debris to save trapped crew members. At the engineering teams literally holding the ship together with their bodies. At everyone giving everything they had. "Engines to absolute maximum," she ordered. "I don't care if they burn out. I don't care if we have to drift home on momentum. Give me everything." "Captain, that'll destroy the engines," someone protested. "I said everything." The engines screamed. They pushed harder than they were ever designed to push. The temperature gauges redlined. Warning alarms blared, and the ship surged upward 10 kilometers to freedom, 5 kilometers, 2 kilometers. Then finally they broke free. The gravity well released them. Both ships were clear. For a moment, nobody moved. The Indomitable drifted in space, its engines finally silent. The ship looked terrible. Scorch marks covered the hull. Several sections were held together with emergency patches and what looked like hope. But it was intact. And so was the transport ship beside it. In the medical bay, Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked without stopping. She had 3 human crew members with severe burns from the superheated hull. She had Marcus Webb and his engineering team suffering from radiation poisoning. She had trapped crew members who had been rescued but injured. And she had over 100 Velthrani patients with radiation exposure. She should have been overwhelmed. By all logic, she should have collapsed from exhaustion hours ago. But she kept going. That was what humans did. They kept going when anyone else would have given up. "How's Marcus?" Captain Sarah Chen asked, stepping into the medical bay. "Stubborn," Yuki replied, injecting anti-radiation medication into his IV. "His radiation exposure was worse than I thought. He should be unconscious right now. Instead, he's arguing with me about getting back to work. I need to check the engines, Marcus protested weakly from his bed. We burned them pretty hard. Someone needs to assess the damage. Someone else can do it. You're staying here until I say otherwise. Sarah smiled despite her exhaustion. Listen to the doctor, Marcus. That's an order. Fine, he grumbled. But when I get out of here, I'm going to write a very strongly worded report about how this ship needs better radiation shielding. 3 beds over, one of the Velthrani patients made a sound. Yuki rushed over. It was the patient she had been most worried about, the one who had been dying. But his vital signs were improving. The treatment was working. He's going to make it, Yuki said, relief in her voice. They're all going to make it, Sarah squeezed her shoulder. You did good work, Doc. We all did. 2 days later, medical ships from multiple alien species arrived. They were too late to help with the rescue, but they could provide care for the survivors. The Velthrani civilians were transferred to proper hospital ships. The human crew finally got real medical attention instead of field treatment. But the real surprise came when the Galactic Council called an emergency session. They wanted to discuss the human incident. Commander Velis was invited to speak. She stood before the council, representing the Velthrani people, and told them everything. She showed them the recordings of the rescue. She shared the data on what the humans had accomplished. And she made an argument. For too long we have avoided risk, she said. We have called ourselves civilized because we calculate the odds before acting. We have let our desire for safety override our compassion. When my people sent the distress call, every advanced species in this sector said the rescue was impossible, and they were right by our standards, by our rules, by our limitations. She paused, looking around at the assembled aliens. Representatives from dozens of species watched her. But humans don't accept our limitations. They come from a world that tried to kill them every day. They evolved in constant danger. And instead of making them cruel or selfish, it made them brave. It made them determined. It made them willing to risk everything to save people they had never met. The humans are dangerous, someone objected. They take reckless risks. They ignore safety protocols. They could cause catastrophic incidents. Yes, Velis agreed. They are dangerous. But they are dangerous to the things that threaten us. They are dangerous to impossible situations. They are dangerous to the idea that some people are acceptable losses. And right now I think we need that kind of dangerous. The council debated for hours. Some species argued for continued quarantine of Earth. Humans were too unpredictable, too reckless, too alien in their thinking. Other species, inspired by the rescue, argued for integration. The galaxy needed people who could do the impossible. In the end, they took a vote. It was close, but humanity was invited to join the Galactic Cooperation Zone. The message was transmitted to Earth, and Captain Sarah Chen was asked to carry the official invitation back to her people. She sat in her repaired captain's chair and read the formal document with amusement. Listen to this, she said to her crew. We are honored to extend membership to humanity in recognition of their exceptional courage and unique capabilities. Please find attached a list of safety regulations and protocols that human vessels will be expected to follow. How long is the list? Marcus asked. He was back on duty, though Yuki had threatened to sedate him if he pushed too hard. 73 pages. The crew burst out laughing. 73 pages of rules, someone said. They're terrified of us, and can you blame them? Marcus replied. We did push a spaceship through an atmosphere. While it was on fire, that's going to make anyone nervous. Sarah smiled and began composing a response to the Galactic Council. It was polite and formal, thanking them for the invitation. But she added one line at the end. Regarding the safety protocols, we'll do our best. But we make no promises. Sometimes saving lives requires breaking rules. The footage of the rescue went viral across the galaxy. Every species saw what the humans had done. They watched the EVA operations, the reactor stabilization, the desperate push through the atmosphere. They saw humans doing things that should have killed them, and surviving. And joking about it afterward. For species that had spent centuries avoiding risk, it was shocking. It was terrifying. It was inspiring. Young aliens from dozens of worlds started asking questions. Why did their ships have so many safety protocols? Why couldn't they do what the humans did? Why did impossible mean giving up instead of trying harder? On the Velthrani homeworld, Commander Velis was promoted to ambassador. Her first assignment was establishing diplomatic relations with Earth. Before she left for the human homeworld, she received a message from Captain Chen. Commander, I wanted to thank you for speaking at the council session. I saw the recording. What you said about humans being dangerous in the right way, that meant a lot to us. We're not trying to be reckless. We're just trying to help. I hope your people and mine can work together in the future. The galaxy seems like it could use more cooperation and less calculation. Take care. Chen out. Velis smiled as she listened to the message. 6 months ago, she would have been terrified to meet humans. Now she was excited. She wanted to see Earth, to understand the world that had created such remarkable people. When she arrived on Earth, she was shocked. The planet was beautiful but terrifying. The gravity was crushing compared to her homeworld. The oxygen atmosphere was so reactive it made her nervous. And the weather. She experienced her first thunderstorm and thought the world was ending. But Sarah Chen just laughed and offered her an umbrella. "Welcome to Earth," Sarah said. "Sorry about the weather. It does this sometimes. You should see it during hurricane season. Your people live with this every day?" Velis asked, watching lightning split the sky. "Pretty much. You get used to it." "I don't think I could ever get used to it." "That's the difference between us," Sarah said. "You don't have to get used to it. We do, but that's okay. We can teach each other. You can teach us caution and planning. We can teach you courage and adaptation. Together we'll be better than either of us alone." Over the next months, something changed in the galaxy. The rescue had shown that impossible was just a word. Species that had been afraid to take risks started trying new things. They didn't become reckless. They became braver. The Galactic Council established a new emergency response fleet. It was staffed by volunteers from multiple species, but the training was designed by humans. They learned how to push limits safely, how to assess risks without letting fear paralyze them, how to improvise when plans fell apart, and humans became something unexpected in the galaxy. They became teachers. They became the people you called when a situation was desperate. They became the species that would show up when everyone else said it was impossible. 2 years after the rescue, another distress call went out. A mining colony was trapped by a collapsing tunnel system. The situation looked hopeless, but this time multiple species responded immediately. They arrived with cutting equipment, emergency supplies, and rescue teams. The humans got there first, of course. But they weren't alone. The rescue operation included Velthrani engineers who had learned to work in dangerous environments, Korthian medics who had studied human emergency medicine, Zephyri pilots who had trained with human flight instructors. Together they pulled off another impossible rescue. 16 hours of dangerous, difficult work, and everyone survived. When it was over, the human team leader received a message from one of the Velthrani engineers. "Thank you," the message said. 2 years ago I would have said this rescue was impossible. I would have stayed safe and let those people die. But I watched what your species did. I learned from you. Today I was brave enough to try. We saved them because you showed us how." The human sent back a simple reply. "You're welcome. That's what friends do." And that was how humanity changed the galaxy. Not by conquering it, not by dominating it, but by showing up when others wouldn't, by trying when others said it was impossible, by being brave enough to care more about saving lives than protecting themselves. The galaxy had been civilized for thousands of years. They had. Elena Vasquez stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council and tried not to show her anger. Around her, beings from 100 different worlds sat in floating seats that adjusted to their various forms. Some were tall and crystalline, others were clouds of glowing gas, and a few were so large they could barely fit through the chamber doors. All of them were more powerful than humanity. All of them knew it. "The human petition is denied," announced the council speaker, a Vexthari whose body looked like animated glass. Again. Elena took a deep breath. "Honorable Council, we are only asking for 12 additional systems. We have the population. We have the resources. We have followed every rule." A booming laugh filled the chamber. War Master Kreltok of the Kroth Empire rose from his seat. He was twice Elena's height, covered in thick armor plates that were part of his natural body. His species had controlled a third of the galaxy for 10,000 years. "You have been part of this council for 200 years, human," Kreltok said, his voice dripping with contempt. "In that time, what have you accomplished? Your species controls 47 systems. 47. My empire controls 8,000. The Luminarchs control 12,000. Your children playing at the adults' table." Other council members murmured in agreement. Elena felt her face grow hot, but she kept her voice calm. With respect, War Master, we have followed the same growth patterns as other species. Other species had something you lack, a Luminarch said, its gaseous form pulsing with light. Power, real power. Your largest warships are mining vessels compared to our dreadnoughts. Your weapons are toys. Your shields are paper. You exist because we allow it. Elena wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them the truth. But she couldn't. Not yet. Then we request more time to present our case, she said. Denied, the speaker said. This session is closed. Elena left the chamber with her head high, but inside she was shaking. 200 years of humiliation. 200 years of being treated like children. 200 years of watching other species take what should have been humanity's. She walked through the crystal corridors of Council Station, past aliens who barely noticed her. Her communicator buzzed. She checked it and saw a single coded message. They laughed again. Elena typed back, yes, how much longer? The response came immediately. Soon, very soon. 50 light-years away in the dark space beyond Earth's Oort cloud, something massive floated in absolute silence. To any passing ship, it looked like a large asteroid, perhaps a captured dwarf planet that had wandered into the solar system millions of years ago. Automated systems kept it cold and dark. Nothing about it suggested it was anything but a dead rock drifting through space. Deep inside that rock, Admiral Chen Zhao walked through a corridor that stretched for miles. The walls were lined with screens showing system status, crew quarters, weapon batteries, and 1,000 other things that no asteroid should have. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. Status report, he said to the officer walking beside him. All systems at 98%, Admiral. Commander Sarah Okoro replied. She was young for her rank, only 35, but her grandmother had been one of the original designers of Project Colossus. Sarah had grown up knowing what her life's work would be. Main engines are ready for activation. Weapons grid is fully charged. Shield generators have passed all tests. The other 3 Titans report the same. Chen nodded slowly. He was 70 years old and had spent the last 40 of those years on this project. He remembered when they started building, back when he was just a young captain. Back when humanity realized the terrible truth about the galaxy. They were alone in a universe full of predators. First contact had been Earth's greatest dream come true. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity with open arms. They had promised friendship, trade, and growth. For the first 20 years, it had seemed wonderful. Then humanity started to understand how the galaxy really worked. The Council had rules, yes. But those rules protected the powerful. When the Vexithari wanted a human colony world, the Council had ruled in their favor. When the Kroth Empire absorbed 3 human systems, the Council called it legal territorial consolidation. When human ships were attacked by pirates, the Council said humanity should build better defenses. But when humanity tried to build better defenses, the Council limited what weapons they could develop. When humanity tried to expand faster, the Council denied their petitions. When humanity protested, the Council laughed. That was when the secret meetings began. Earth's governments, Mars colonies, and the outer settlements all agreed. If humanity was going to survive, they needed something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make the elder races respect them. They needed weapons that couldn't be denied or ignored. Project Colossus was born in those secret meetings. The plan was insane. It would take 150 years. It would require mining entire moons. It would need the greatest scientific minds working in absolute secrecy. It would consume resources that could have built 1,000 colonies. But it would work. Grandmother used to tell me stories, Sarah said as they walked, about the early days. How they had to hide everything. How every mining operation in the outer system was actually for this. How millions of people kept the secret. It's the biggest secret in human history, Chen said. 4 world ships, each the size of Earth's moon. Each one with enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. Each one designed to make the galaxy understand that humanity is not weak. Do you think it will work, sir? Chen stopped walking and looked at her. It has to work. Because if it doesn't, humanity will always be on its knees. His communicator buzzed. It was a priority message from Earth's government. Chen read it and felt his stomach tighten. What is it? Sarah asked. The Kroth Empire just issued an ultimatum, Chen said quietly. They want 12 of our colony worlds. They're giving us 30 days to surrender them or they'll take them by force. Sarah's face went pale. That's 8 billion people. Yes. The council will do nothing. They never do. Chen looked at the screens around them showing the massive ship hidden inside False Rock. Get me a secure channel to Ambassador Vasquez. Then prepare to wake the Titans. Sir, we're not ready. We need more time for final test. We're out of time, Commander. Chen's voice was hard. In 30 days, the Kroth will attack. And when they do, they're going to discover that humanity has been preparing for this moment for 150 years. Sarah saluted and hurried away. Chen stood alone in the corridor, surrounded by the sleeping giant that he had helped build. Soon, very soon, it would wake. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. He thought about all the years of humiliation, all the times the Council had laughed at humanity, all the times they had been told they were too weak, too small, too insignificant to matter. Laugh while you can. Chen whispered to the empty corridor. You won't be laughing much longer. The Kroth ultimatum arrived on every human world at exactly the same moment. War Master Krell-Tok's face appeared on billions of screens, his armored features twisted in what might have been a smile. People of humanity, he began, his voice loud and commanding. The Kroth Empire has been patient with your species. For 200 years we have allowed you to occupy systems that rightfully belong to greater civilizations. That patience has ended. You will surrender control of the following colony worlds within 30 standard days: New Haven, Prosperity, Eden's Gate, and 9 others. Your populations will be relocated. Your installations will become Kroth property. This is not negotiable. Resist and we will take them by force. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. For a moment there was silence across human space. Then the panic began. Elena sat in her office on Council Station and watched the news feeds from Earth. Riots in Paris, protests in New Beijing. The president's office surrounded by angry crowds demanding to know how this had happened, how their government had let them become so weak. If only they knew the truth. Her secure communicator chimed. It was a direct call from Admiral Chen. She activated the encryption and answered. I saw the ultimatum, Chen said without greeting. How bad is it? 12 colony worlds, 8 billion people. The council meeting in 3 hours, but you know what they'll say. That it's legal under council law. Of course it is. The law was written by species like the Kroth. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. The evacuation transports can't move 8 billion people in 30 days. Even if we had 6 months, we couldn't do it. They're giving us an impossible deadline because they want an excuse to attack. Then we give them what they want. Elena's head snapped up. What? Let them come, Chen said, and there was something cold in his voice. Let them bring their fleets. Let them think they're going to have an easy victory. And then we show them what we've been building. Chen, we talked about this. We were supposed to reveal the Titans through diplomatic channels. A measured disclosure. Not in the middle of a battle. That was before they threatened 8 billion of our people. Chen's face was hard on the screen. I've been patient, Elena, we all have. 150 years of building in secret. Decades of watching our people be humiliated. But I will not let the Kroath kill human children, because we were too afraid to show our strength. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll stall them as long as I can. Buy us time to evacuate as many civilians as possible. When do you wake the Titans? I already did. They're powering up now. 30 days from now, when the Kroth fleet arrives, they're going to find a surprise waiting for them. The council session 3 hours later went exactly as Elena expected. She stood before the assembled species and made her case. She showed them the numbers. 8 billion people. 30 days. It was impossible. The Kroth demand is legal, the council speaker said. The colonies in question fall within territory that was disputed during the original settlement agreements. The Kroth have properly filed their claim. They're using a legal technicality to justify an invasion, Elena said, her voice rising. This isn't about law. It's about power. They know we can't fight back, so they're taking what they want. War Master Krell-Tok stood. The human ambassador speaks of power as if she understands it. Your species has been given every opportunity to build strength. Instead, you build mining colonies and research stations. You write poetry and make art. You are soft. The galaxy belongs to the strong. Then perhaps, Elena said quietly, you don't know us as well as you think. Krell-Tok laughed. I know your fleet. 300 warships. The largest is 600 meters long with weapons from the last century. Your shields can't stop our smallest missiles. You have nothing that frightens the Kroth Empire. Elena met his eyes and didn't look away. I guess we'll find out in 30 days. Something in her voice made Krelltalk pause. But then he laughed again and sat down. Yes, we will. The vote was quick. The council ruled in favor of the Kroth Empire. Humanity had 30 days to comply or face military action. Elena left the chamber knowing that war was now inevitable. On the colony world of New Haven, transports worked day and night to evacuate civilians. Governor Marcus Chen, no relation to the admiral, watched the loading docks and did the math in his head. They had 47 transport ships. Each could carry 10,000 people. Even working perfectly, they could only move 14 million people before the deadline. New Haven had a population of 600 million. Governor, we have another problem, his aide said. People are panicking. They're fighting to get on the transports. Security can't control the crowds anymore. Marcus closed his eyes. This was how it ended, not with dignity but with chaos and terror. He thought about calling his brother, who worked in the Ort cloud on some classified project. But classified meant classified even for family. Tell security to prioritize children, Marcus said. Get as many kids off this world as possible. If the adults have to stay, at least save the children. In deep space, Sarah Okoro stood in the command center of Titan 01, designation Terra's Wrath, and watched systems come online for the first time in 50 years. The artificial gravity activated. The atmosphere processors hummed to life. Lights flickered on in corridors that stretched for hundreds of miles. Around her, the crew of 2 million people moved to their stations. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Most had been born on the Titans, children of the original builders. They had lived their whole lives in secret, preparing for a day that might never come. That day had arrived. Main engines at 40% power, reported the engineering officer. All 4 Titans are responding. Weapon systems charging. Shield generators at standby. Admiral Chen walked onto the command deck. He looked around at the massive room, larger than any building on Earth, filled with stations and screens and people working with focused intensity. Status of Kroth fleet? He asked. Their scout ships have entered our border space, Sarah said. They're scanning our defenses. Current estimates say the main attack fleet will arrive in 28 days. What are they seeing? Exactly what we want them to see. Orbital defense platforms, some frigates, a few destroyers, all of our visible military assets. Sarah pulled up a tactical display. They have no idea the Titans exist. Let's keep it that way. Chen studied the display showing human space. 12 colony worlds marked in red, billions of lives hanging in the balance. How long until all 4 Titans can move? Titan 01 and Titan 02 will be mobile in 10 days. Titan 03 and Titan 04 need 15. Full combat capability in 20 days, Chen nodded slowly. Then in 20 days, we move the Titans into position. We hide them in the outer system where the Kroth won't see them until it's too late, and when their fleet arrives when they think they've already won. He paused. We teach them what human engineering can accomplish when we have 150 years to work. A young officer at a nearby station spoke up nervously. Sir, what if it's not enough? The Kroth Empire has thousands of ships. What if 4 Titans can't stop them? Chen looked at the young man and smiled. It was not a kind smile. Son, each Titan has more firepower than the entire Kroath fleet combined. Each one can take hits that would destroy a planet. Each one was built with a single purpose, to make absolutely certain that humanity never has to bow to anyone ever again. He turned back to the display. The Kroth are about to learn a very hard lesson. When you corner humans, when you threaten their children, when you assume they're weak, you make a fatal mistake. Sarah watched the Admiral and felt a chill run down her spine. She had spent her entire life building this ship. She knew every system, every weapon, every capability, and she knew that what was coming would change the galaxy forever. The countdown had begun. 28 days until the Kroth fleet arrived. 28 days until humanity revealed its secret. 28 days until the galaxy learned that the species they had laughed at, dismissed, and humiliated had been preparing for this moment for 150 years. The underdogs were about to bite back. The 30 days passed like a countdown to the end of the world. Humanity evacuated what civilians they could. But billions remained on the 12 disputed colony worlds. People watched the skies and waited for the Kroth Armada that everyone knew was coming. The galaxy watched too. News services across 1,000 worlds covered the story. Would the humans surrender? Would they fight? Most agreed it didn't matter. The Kroth Empire had never lost a war. Their military might was legendary. Against them, humanity's small fleet was nothing. On Council Station, Elena prepared for what she knew would be the most important day of her life. She dressed carefully in her formal ambassador uniform, checked her communicator one last time, and walked to the council chamber. Today, the entire galaxy would be watching. War Master Krell-Tok was already there, looking confident and pleased with himself. Around the chamber, representatives from hundreds of species had gathered to witness humanity's humiliation. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked indifferent. A few looked eager to see what would happen to a species that dared to resist. The deadline has expired, the council speaker announced. War Master Krell-Tok, you may proceed. Krell-Tok stood and activated a holographic display. It showed the Kroth Armada gathering at the edge of human space. 3,000 warships, dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, carriers, and destroyers. The largest military fleet ever assembled against such a small target. The human species has refused to comply with legal council demands, Krell-Tok announced. Therefore, the Kroth Empire will take by force what was rightfully ours. Our fleet jumps to human space in 1 hour. This unfortunate conflict will be over by nightfall. Murmurs filled the chamber. 3,000 ships. Even sympathetic species had to admit that humanity had no chance. Elena stood slowly. Before you proceed, War Master, humanity has a statement to make. Krell-Tok waved a dismissive hand. Speak quickly, then. I have a war to win. Elena activated her communicator. Admiral Chen, you may begin. Across human space, Admiral Chen sat in the command center of Terra's Wrath and gave the order he had waited 40 years to give. Remove the camouflage. Show them everything. In 4 locations scattered across the outer solar system, massive objects that had looked like asteroids and rogue planets for over a century began to change. The false surfaces dissolved. The cold, dark rocks revealed themselves to be shells covering something far more incredible. 4 world ships, each the size of Earth's moon, activated their systems. Lights blazed across their surfaces. Shields shimmered into existence. Weapon batteries the size of mountains came online. Engines that could move planets roared to life. And the galaxy's sensors went insane. Every observatory, every military installation, every science station across 1,000 worlds suddenly detected 4 objects that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures off the scale. Mass readings that made no sense. Power levels that exceeded entire star systems. In the council chamber, alarms started going off. Species with advanced sensors began receiving emergency reports from their homeworlds. The Vexthari representative stood up, her crystalline body flashing with shock. That's impossible. Those readings. They can't be real, Elena smiled. I assure you they're very real. On the main display, the 4 titans appeared for the entire galaxy to see. The chamber fell absolutely silent as species after species realized what they were looking at. By the ancients, whispered a Luminarch. Those aren't ships. They're mobile planets. A Vexthari scientist was already doing calculations, his body flickering rapidly as he processed the numbers. The energy output of each one. It exceeds our entire civilization's combined fleet. This is humanity's formal petition for recognition as a major power, Elena said calmly, backed by adequate military assets as required by council law. War Master Krell-Tok was staring at the display, his expression frozen. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. Real fear. How? He said quietly. How did you build these? How did you hide them? We started the day after we joined the council, Elena said. 200 years ago, when we realized that the galaxy respects only strength, we began building strength that could not be ignored. We stripped the outer solar system to raw materials. We built construction facilities in the dark between stars. We trained crews in absolute secrecy. And we waited. 4 ships cannot defeat my armada, Krell-Tok said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Can't they? Sarah Okoro's voice came through the communication system. She was broadcasting from Terra's Wrath, and her image appeared on every screen in the council chamber. Behind her, the Titan's command center stretched into the distance. Let me give you some numbers, War Master. Each Titan has a crew of 2 million. Each one has shield generators powered by artificial stars. Each one carries weapons that can crack planets. Each one was built specifically to ensure that humanity never has to submit to anyone ever again. Admiral Chen appeared on the display next to her. Warmaster Krelltalk, you have 1 hour to turn your fleet around. If you enter human space, if you threaten our colonies, if you attack our people, we will demonstrate exactly what these Titans can do. I strongly advise you to reconsider your plans. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species were shouting, demanding answers, calling their homeworlds. The council speaker was trying to restore order and failing completely. Elena stood calm in the center of the storm and waited. She could see the calculations happening behind Krelltalk's eyes. He was a warrior, yes, but he was also a military strategist who had won 1,000 battles by knowing when to fight and when to retreat. This is trickery, Krelltalk said finally. Holographic projections, sensor manipulation. Humans are known for clever deceptions. Then test us, Elena said. Bring your 3,000 ships. Attack our colonies, and discover whether we're bluffing. But Warmaster, she leaned forward, if you're wrong, your fleet will be destroyed. Every ship, every soldier. And the Kroth Empire will have to explain to its people how it lost its entire armada to a species you called weak. The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye in the chamber was on Krelltalk, the proud Warmaster who had never lost, who had conquered hundreds of worlds, who had laughed at humanity's weakness. His communicator chimed. He checked it and his face went rigid. It was a report from his own fleet's sensors. They had confirmed the readings. The Titans were real. The power signatures were accurate. And if even one of those world ships engaged his armada, a tactical delay, Krelltalk said finally, to allow for diplomatic negotiations. You mean a retreat, Elena said. A tactical delay, Krelltalk repeated firmly. But everyone in the chamber knew the truth. The Kroth Empire was backing down. Across human space, people watched the broadcast and couldn't believe what they were seeing. The great Kroth fleet that had come to conquer them was turning around. The Warmaster who had promised victory by nightfall was requesting negotiations, and 4 massive world ships hung in space, silent and powerful, changing everything humanity had ever known about its place in the galaxy. On New Haven, Governor Marcus Chen stood in the evacuation center and watched the news with 8 billion other people. The transport ships had stopped loading. They weren't needed anymore. The Kroth weren't coming, did you know? His aide asked. About the Titans? Marcus shook his head slowly. No one knew. That's what made it possible. He watched the images of Terra's wrath on the screen, its surface covered with weapons and shields, larger than any moon. My brother works in the Ort cloud. I always wondered what he was doing out there. I guess now I know. In the council chamber, Elena submitted humanity's formal petition for major power status. She included detailed technical specifications of the Titans, deployment capabilities, and current military strength. She also included a list of demands, expanded territory, full voting rights, and an end to discriminatory policies against human interests. The council speaker looked at the document and then at Elena. This will require a full vote. Weeks of debate. Verification of claims. Take your time, Elena said. The Titans aren't going anywhere. Neither are we. As she left the chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. 200 years of humiliation. 200 years of being told humanity was too weak to matter. 200 years of building in secret, hoping that this day would come. The underdogs had just revealed their teeth, and the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Admiral Chen watched the Kroth fleet jump away from human space and felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 40 years of work. 40 years of keeping the biggest secret in human history. It was worth it, sir, Sarah said beside him. The galaxy's communication networks are going crazy. Everyone wants to know how we did it. How we kept it secret. How we built them. Chen smiled. Let them wonder. Let them guess. And let them remember that humanity is not what they thought we were. He looked at the tactical display showing all 4 Titans in formation, guarding human space. Terra's wrath, Hope's defiance, Unity's promise, Freedom's stand, each one a testament to human determination and patience. The galaxy wanted us to be strong, Chen said quietly. Now they get to live with the consequences. Warmaster Krelltalk made his decision 3 days after the Titans were revealed. Pride won over wisdom. The Kroth Empire had never retreated from a weaker species. and he would not be the first War Master to do so. If the humans wanted to fight, he would give them a fight they would never forget. "The tactical delay is over," he announced to his fleet commanders. "We attack at dawn. Human tricks and sensor games will not save them from Kroth steel." His chief tactical officer looked uncomfortable. "War Master, the energy readings from those world ships are exaggerated," Kreltok snapped. "Humans are clever. They have made 4 asteroids look dangerous. But asteroids cannot maneuver, cannot dodge, cannot fight like real warships. We will surround them, overwhelm them, and destroy them. Then we will take the colony worlds as planned." The officer said nothing more. Orders were orders. The Kroth Armada prepared for battle. Admiral Chen received the warning 6 hours before the Kroth fleet jumped. His intelligence network had intercepted their communications. He stood in the command center of Terra's Wrath and felt a strange mix of sadness and anger. "They're really coming," Sarah said beside him. "After seeing what we built, after we offered them a way out." "Pride is a dangerous thing," Chen said. "The Kroth have conquered for 10,000 years. They can't accept that a young species could threaten them. So they'll attack and we'll have to show them the truth." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All Titans, this is Admiral Chen. The Kroth Empire has chosen war. We will engage them at Proxima Threshold. Our goal is not to kill, it's to convince. We will demonstrate our capabilities so completely that no one will ever doubt human strength again." He paused, looking around at the 2 million crew members on Terra's Wrath alone. "What happens next will be remembered for 1,000 years. Make sure we do it right." The Battle of Proxima Threshold began at 0600 Standard Galactic Time. 3,000 Kroth warships jumped into human space in a coordinated assault. They arrived in perfect formation. Battle cruisers in front, carriers in the middle, destroyers on the flanks. It was a formation that had conquered 100 worlds. Waiting for them was a single Titan, Terra's Wrath. The world ship hung in space like a small moon, its surface covered with city-sized weapon batteries and shield generators. It didn't move, didn't dodge, it simply waited. "Is that all?" Kreltok said from his flagship. "One ship? Where are the other 3? "Defending the colony worlds," his sensor officer reported. "They've taken defensive positions. Only this one has come to meet us." Kreltok laughed. It was the laugh of a predator who had just seen prey make a fatal mistake. "The humans send one ship against 3,000. Their arrogance will be their end. All vessels, attack formation. Target that world ship. I want it destroyed." The Kroth fleet surged forward. Thousands of weapons opened fire. Missiles by the millions streaked across space. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains converged on Terra's Wrath. It was the kind of firepower that could sterilize planets. Terra's Wrath's shields caught it all. The energy splashed across the protective barrier like water against a cliff. The massive shield generators powered by artificial stars absorbed firepower that would have destroyed any normal fleet. Where missiles hit, there were brief flashes of light. Where energy beams struck, there were momentary ripples, but the shields held. Inside the command center, Sarah watched the shield status displays. Shields at 99.8%, minimal drain from their initial salvo. "Return fire," Chen ordered calmly. "Point defense systems only. Show them what precision looks like." Across Terra's Wrath's surface, thousands of small weapon turrets came online. They were the smallest weapons on the world ship, designed for shooting down missiles and small craft. Each turret began firing with computer-guided accuracy. In the Kroth fleet, missiles started exploding before they reached their target. Thousands of them, detonating in perfect sequence. Not one missile made it through Terra's Wrath's point defense grid. "Impossible," breathed Kreltok's tactical officer. "We launched 50,000 missiles. Their defense grid stopped all of them." "Then we use more missiles," Kreltok growled. "All carriers, launch everything. Overwhelm their defenses." The Kroth carriers opened their bays. Millions of missiles poured out, filling space with deadly ordnance. It was a swarm that blotted out the stars, enough firepower to destroy a solar system. Terra's Wrath's point defense system adjusted. More turrets came online. The small weapons, tracked, fired, and destroyed with relentless efficiency. The computer systems that controlled them had been designed specifically for this scenario. They had calculated this exact battle 1 billion times in simulation. Not one missile reached the shields. "This is not possible," Kreltok said, staring at his tactical display. "Nothing can stop that many missiles." "War Master, perhaps we should reconsider," his officer began. "No, we are Kroth. We do not retreat." Kreltok opened a fleet-wide channel. "All battle cruisers, maximum power to main weapons. Coordinated strike on my mark. We will crack that shield or die trying." 200 battle cruisers charged their main guns. These were weapons that could destroy moons, powered by entire reactors devoted to nothing but destruction. They fired as one, 200 beams of pure energy converging on a single point of Terra's Wrath's shield. The shield flickered. For just a moment, it looked like it might fail. Then it stabilized. The energy was absorbed, distributed, and dissipated. The shields dropped to 98% and held. "They hit us with everything they had," Sarah reported. "Shield integrity stable. Damage none." Chen nodded slowly. The Croath had tried their best. They had thrown everything they had at Terra's Wrath for over an hour. Billions of missiles, thousands of energy beams, coordinated strikes from their most powerful weapons. And they had accomplished nothing. Now it was humanity's turn to demonstrate. "Activate main weapon system," Chen ordered. "Gravitational lance, single shot. Calculate firing solution to hit maximum targets without causing permanent casualties." Sarah's fingers flew across her console. "Solution calculated. Single shot will pass through 207 enemy ships. Croath armor will not protect them, but most crews should survive if their emergency systems work." "Show them what we built," Chen said quietly. Fire. Deep in the heart of Terra's Wrath, a weapon that had taken 50 years to perfect came online. It didn't use explosives or energy beams. Instead, it manipulated gravity itself, creating a focused lance of gravitational force that nothing could stop. The weapon fired. A line of distorted space shot out from Terra's Wrath and passed through the Kroth fleet like a needle through paper. 207 ships simply came apart as the gravitational forces tore through them. Armor meant nothing. Shields meant nothing. The lance passed through solid matter as if it wasn't there. Ships that could survive direct hits from nuclear weapons were shredded in seconds. Hulls buckled. Reactors exploded. Life support failed. And the lance kept going, passing through ship after ship after ship in a perfectly straight line. Then it was over. The weapon powered down. 207 Kroth warships floated in pieces. Emergency pods launched desperately as survivors tried to escape. The rest of the Kroth fleet sat in shocked silence. That was one shot. Admiral Chen's voice came across all communication channels. One weapon. 1% of Terra's Wrath's total firepower. War Master Kreltok, I say again. Turn your fleet around. You cannot win this fight. You can only decide how many of your soldiers die before you accept that. Inside his flagship, Kreltok stared at the tactical display. 200 ships destroyed in one shot. One shot from one weapon on one ship. And the humans had 4 of these world ships. And each world ship had hundreds of weapons. The math was brutal and undeniable. If Terra's Wrath fired again, another 200 ships would die. If it fired 10 times, 2,000 ships. If the other Titans joined the battle. War Master, his tactical officer said quietly. 40% of our fleet commanders are requesting permission to retreat. Morale is breaking. The soldiers have never seen weapons like this. They think we're fighting gods. Kreltok felt something he had never experienced in 1,000 battles. Despair. He was the War Master of the Kroth Empire. He had conquered worlds. He had never lost. But standing against Terra's Wrath, he finally understood what the humans had been trying to tell him. This wasn't a fight, it was a lesson. "Signal the fleet," he said, his voice heavy. "All ships cease fire. We are withdrawing. War Master, the Empire. The Empire will survive," Kreltok said, "but only if we learn when to recognize superior force." The humans have won, not through trickery or luck, through preparation and engineering beyond anything we imagined. We retreat with honor, carrying knowledge of a new power in the galaxy. The Kroth fleet turned away from Terra's wrath. 3,000 ships reduced to less than 3,000 after one demonstration of one weapon. They jumped away from human space in defeat. On Terra's wrath, Admiral Chen watched them go. Broadcast this battle data to the entire galaxy, every species, every world. Let them see exactly what happened here. Let them understand that humanity has joined the ranks of the powerful, and we earned our place through patience, sacrifice, and determination. Sarah looked at him. The galaxy will never be the same. No, Chen agreed. It won't. For 200 years, the Emergency Council session was the most heavily attended in galactic history. Representatives from every species crowded into the chamber and filled the observation galleries. News services from 1,000 worlds broadcast live. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Elena walked to the speaker's platform with her head high. 2 weeks had passed since the Battle of Proxima Threshold. 2 weeks of frantic diplomatic negotiations, intelligence assessments, and political chaos across the galaxy. Now it was time for humanity to state its terms. Honorable Council, she began. Humanity submits its petition for recognition as a major power under galactic law. Our evidence: 4 Titan-class world ships, each with firepower exceeding any single species' combined fleet. Battle data from Proxima Threshold confirms our capabilities. We request immediate recognition, expanded territorial rights, and full voting privileges on all council matters. The chamber was silent. Everyone knew this moment had been coming. The council speaker, still recovering from the shock of recent events, nodded slowly. The evidence is compelling. Does any species wish to contest humanity's petition? No one spoke. Even War Master Kreltok, present but diminished, kept silent. His empire was still counting the cost of challenging humanity. Then, by unanimous consent, the speaker began. Elena held up her hand. There's more. A murmur went through the chamber. More? What more could there be? The 4 Titans you've seen are our active fleet, Elena said calmly. We have 12 more under construction. They will be completed within the next 10 years. Additionally, we have begun Phase 2 of Project Colossus. She activated a holographic display showing new designs. Larger vessels, more advanced weapons, systems we haven't even tested yet. The chamber erupted. 12 more Titans? Larger vessels? Species were shouting questions, demanding details, calling for emergency votes. The revelation that humanity's show of force was just the beginning sent shockwaves through the assembly. A Vexithari counselor stood, her crystalline body flashing with agitation. This is unacceptable! Humanity could dominate the entire galaxy with such forces. We demand these weapons be dismantled immediately. On what grounds? Elena asked. Council law allows any major power to maintain whatever military they deem necessary for defense. The Kroth Empire has 8,000 warships. The Luminarchs have 15,000. Why should humanity be limited? Because your weapons are too powerful, another species shouted. 4 Titans defeated the Kroth fleet without taking damage. 16 could destroy us all. Elena let the fear ripple through the chamber. Let them feel what humanity had felt for 200 years. The terror of being powerless before stronger species. You're right to be afraid, she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. For 200 years we were afraid. Afraid of the Kroth taking our worlds. Afraid of the Vexithari claiming our colonies. Afraid that one day a powerful species would decide humanity was inconvenient and simply erase us. That fear drove us to build the Titans. That fear made us sacrifice, plan, and hide for 2 centuries. Now you feel that same fear, and you understand what it means to face superior force. She paused, letting her words sink in. But here's what you need to understand. We didn't build the Titans to conquer. We built them to survive. We seek partnership, not domination. We want equals, not subjects. Pretty words, growled a Kroth delegate. But words are cheap. How do we know you won't use those world ships to enforce your will on the rest of us? Elena smiled. Because I'm about to propose something no conqueror would ever suggest. She activated another display. It showed technical specifications, design principles, and construction methods. Humanity is willing to share some of our Titan technology with other species. Not weapons designs, we're not fools, but advanced shield generators, better engines, improved life support. We will help other species become stronger, not weaker. In exchange, we want a new treaty. What kind of treaty? The council speaker asked cautiously. A mutual defense pact, Elena said. The Titans will serve as galactic peacekeepers. When pirates threaten trade routes, we respond. When border disputes turn violent, we mediate. When hostile forces threaten peaceful species, we defend them. Humanity becomes the sword of the council, protecting all members equally. In return, we receive full major power status, territorial rights, and a guarantee that no species will ever again try to take what is ours. The chamber dissolved into debate. Species huddled in groups, discussing, arguing, calculating advantages and risks. Some saw opportunity, protection from ancient enemies. Others saw danger, dependence on human military might. All of them were trying to adapt to a galaxy where humanity was suddenly one of the most powerful civilizations. War Master Kreltok stood slowly. All eyes turned to him, the great warrior who had been humbled at Proxima Threshold. Everyone wondered what he would say. The Kroth Empire accepts humanity's proposal, he said, his voice clear and strong. I have fought humans and learned to respect them. They are not conquerors. They are survivors. And sometimes survivors make the best allies. He turned to Elena. The Empire offers a formal non-aggression pact and requests permission to study human shield technology. In exchange, we will share our tactical databases and support humanity's petition. Elena bowed her head respectfully. The Empire's offer is accepted with gratitude. One by one, other species stood and voiced their support. Some enthusiastic, others reluctant, but all recognizing reality. Humanity was now a power that could not be ignored or dismissed. The vote was called. The result was overwhelming. Humanity was officially recognized as a major power. Elena left the chamber as ambassadors surrounded her, all wanting to negotiate treaties, trade agreements, and alliances. She smiled and made polite responses, but inside she felt a weight lift that she had carried for decades. It was done. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. They were equals. On Terra's wrath, Admiral Chen received the news of the vote and allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Then he returned to work. 4 Titans were operational. 12 more needed to be completed. Phase 2 awaited. The galaxy might accept humanity now, but acceptance wasn't security. Only strength was security. Sarah found him in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. We did it, sir. Everything we worked for. Humanity has the respect we earned. Yes, Chen said. But respect is like shields. You have to maintain it constantly or it fails when you need it most. The Titans aren't just weapons, Sarah, they're a promise. A promise that humanity will never again be at anyone's mercy. What happens now? She asked. Now we keep building. Keep training. Keep preparing, Chen smiled. And we help build a better galaxy. One where strength doesn't mean domination. Where power is used to protect, not conquer. The elder species had their chance to create that galaxy. They chose hierarchy and dominance instead. Humanity will do better. Sarah looked out at the stars, thinking about her grandmother who had started this journey so long ago. She would have been proud. Yes, Chen agreed. She would. In the months that followed, the galaxy settled into its new reality. Humanity expanded to 100 systems. The Titans took up patrol routes across Council space. Human engineers began sharing technology as promised. Trade flourished. Alliances formed. And deep in Jupiter's atmosphere, hidden in the swirling storms of the gas giant, Phase 2 of Project Colossus moved forward. Construction platforms assembled something even larger than the Titans. Something that wouldn't be revealed for decades. Something that would ensure humanity's survival for centuries to come. Governor Marcus Chen of New Haven received a message from his brother in the Oort cloud. It was simple. Sorry I couldn't tell you. Worth it? Marcus looked around at his colony, still safe, still free, still human. He typed back, Yeah, worth it. The Kroth Empire sent diplomatic missions to Earth, beginning an unlikely friendship between former enemies. War Master Kreltok himself visited Terra's Wrath and toured the world ship with Admiral Chen. They stood on the observation deck and looked out at space together. I have fought for 300 years, Kreltok said. I have seen 1,000 battles. But I have never seen anything like this. Your species spent 200 years preparing for a single moment. That kind of patience, that kind of vision, it is worthy of respect. The Kroth fought well, Chen said diplomatically. In another situation against different opponents you would have won. No, Kreltok said. We would have lost then too, because we were fighting the wrong battle. You didn't try to beat us tactically. You changed the nature of warfare itself. That is the mark of a truly dangerous opponent, he paused. Or a valuable ally, Chen smiled. I think we'd prefer the second option. As would we, Kreltalk agreed. Tell me, Admiral, how many more secrets does humanity have? Chen's smile widened. Enough to keep you wondering, War Master. Enough to keep you wondering. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer the young species to be dismissed and controlled. They were equals, partners, and if necessary, they were a force that could reshape the balance of power. The underdogs had become apex predators, and they had done it through patience, sacrifice, and a willingness to play the longest game in galactic history. Elena stood on Earth, looking up at the night sky rear.